get it going before you can blow on it.
We had it going at probably I think the four minute
start
mark.
with this really small stuff, and when it's really small like this, it's really gentle. You don't want to hit it really hard. You don't want to do anything crazy. You just want to take these little sticks, just lay them right over the fire. I need to put on for a while, but I don't have it actually ended.
And you see how he's adding on like a little bit bigger sticks too. It's like you get the little ones and then you need those big ones eventually, like just to keep it going, because the little ones really go out fast. Just kind of building it up like
So,
almost teepee-ish.
I've got a good little basic hole in there, so I'm not too worried about it just going right out. I've got to build up a little bit of stick. You don't want to put fluffy sticks on there. Like when I mean fluffy is like you don't want to put this, things like that on there, because they create all this space. And so just work with your fire wherever it's at. See how the fire's building over here? Well, that's fine. I'm just going to work right there then. I'm just going to add these little guys just right on top.
And the wind's helping you now too with this. You can see there's some breeze there that's helping out.
You're creating heat chambers. You're like trapping heat in these sticks, and just creating like perfect little pockets where the heat can get trapped and stay. Now, as you're getting the fire a little bigger, as you get a little bigger, you can start to be a little rougher with it. You don't have to be as gentle, and it's not just going to go out with one little wrong stick placed on the fire. And so, what I do with quick fires, I don't have time to prepare all my stuff. You just grab branches, especially over here on the east side. Anything that's got green stuff on it, you don't use it because it's still alive. So you want to make sure you have dead branches. And then you're just kind of building a teepee type structure, and it just tends to want to build that anyway. So as you notice, the wind's blowing it this way, so I'm going to start adding more this way. Now I'm going to start adding a little bit bigger stuff. It's going pretty good.
So I think we would have saved our hypothermic friend.
Megan.
You would have survived.
Because you guys would have all like climbed in next to me and used your body heat.
You would have had a fire going.
And that, yeah, the other people would be starting a fire for you.
So on the west side, everything's completely different. You see how you got so much dry stuff over here, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's really easy.
Did you just grab those needles off the ground too?
Yep, because the sun's been on them. They're fine. So they're much better than like the dried grass. It won't dry out as fast as the needles will. If you dig down a little bit, like the second layer of needles, there's a little bit. But first layer, I just got them underneath that fine over there. And on the west side, everything's wet. So what I'll start with is I'll hit up a hemlock or a Douglas fir. Usually hemlock's a little better. I prefer hemlock, but if I don't have one. And you'll find on hemlocks, they have a lot of dead branches underneath, kind of like these firs do. And they'll have these tiny little twigs that are even smaller than this. Like they're like 1/4 this diameter of this.
There's tons of them too.
There's tons of them.
It's like a nest, kind of.
Since hemlocks are so dense, they tend to be drier than a lot of other trees underneath, and those branches are off the ground. So for one, relative humidity, the higher up off the ground you get, the less humid it's going to be, because that cold, wet air kind of sinks down. And so you're pulling them off the ground, and also just the breeze blowing through, and if there is a little bit of sun or the warmth a little higher, it's going to dry those branches out a lot quicker. So they're going to be pretty dry if it's not been pouring rain for a while. Even if it's been raining for a few hours, it's still going to be dry. If it's been raining for days and days and days and days, they're still going to be wet, but since they're so thin that the fire can actually dry them out super fast. So if you can get them lit, a lot of times, if you just have a big bundle of them, they'll still light up. So here, I didn't prepare much. I just grabbed those needles, ran over here, and lit it. On the west side, you want to make sure you have everything in order before you get your matches out, just because you'll struggle and struggle and struggle. So you want to have like a big bundle of those tiny, tiny, tiny little hemlock branches. And then a next size up that's good is like maybe this size for those little hemlock branches, or even you could even go like this size up, and then something like this, and have a pile of these and a pile of these, and you still can use the hemlock so that branches are coming off, and it's still the driest probably spot, unless you can find a down tree or a natural cavity or something where you can kind of protect it from the weather. A lot of times if you like find where animals are nesting and things like that, you can reach your hand in there and pull stuff out for making a fire. And make sure you're prepared in advance, because otherwise you might just really struggle if it's wet and have all your stuff, and then light those hemlock twigs and then just start adding those little bitty twigs. And you might just have a little fire like this and just be really gentle with it, protect it from the wind, and just keep it safe, and just start placing, even if it's just like one little twig at a time, directly on top of that fire. Another one on top, another one on top, another one on top. So it's a little bigger and a little bigger and a little bigger until you get it going. And then if you have really wet wood, the fire's just going to smoke a ton. It's going to really struggle, and it's going to be hard for it to make coals. But it'll start getting going slowly, and it might take you a long time. You might have to not use bigger wet stuff for a while. You can collect damp firewood or firewood that you've collected off the trees. Better not to collect off the ground, better just pull everything off the trees, and you can stack it around your fire. So as though your fire's wet and it's struggling, it's going to take you many hours to get it going really well. All that firewood is drying out. So then once you get that firewood dried out, you can start putting the drier firewood on there. You get a lot hotter fire, and that'll allow you to dry out other firewood a lot quicker. And just keep doing that. Unless you can find dry stuff. Sometimes like a log will be down or something, and then you can pull planks or like big splinters off of a log that a lot of times will be pretty dry. Or stumps sometimes that are sitting up. If it's not, I don't know, depends on where you're at, but sometimes cedar stumps particularly, if the tree is broken off and it's not that old, maybe it's a year or two old, and it hasn't started to rot yet, sometimes you can pull planks off of that and use those. Those burn pretty well. If you have a knife, you can create shavings. You shave off the wet part and shave some nice dry shavings and start your fire with that. Also, bark tends to hold a lot of moisture in, so like cottonwoods, the bark is like a sponge on a dead cottonwood branch, which cottonwood's great for burning. But a lot of times the bark will be like a sponge, but the wood itself isn't very wet. So if you can just strip the bark off, then it'll burn a lot better, and all of that water will kind of go out with the bark, and you'll be a lot better off, and your wood will dry out a lot faster. So, but it takes a lot of practice. And really, one of the cool things about fire is that the more you work with it, the more you develop a relationship with it, and the more dynamic your relationship, the more, the longer time you spend with it, tending it and just being with it, the easier it is for you to know what's wrong with it. Why does it not want to light? And why is it struggling? Does it need oxygen? Does it need more heat? Does it need drier wood? What does it need? And what else was I gonna say? Yeah, so just definitely practice. It's definitely a skill that needs to be practiced, and it's cool to hang out with fire and develop, that bond with it, and it keeps you warm. So. You guys want to try again? Your new knowledge? Sure, no.
Yeah.
When cedar's available, I've seen people using cedar.